So I thought I would make a video on recording mandolin and how to, some tips on getting good tone when you're recording mandolin. And so I just want to say a little bit about why I'm making this video. I consider myself to be still a fairly mediocre mandolin player, but like most mandolin players, I am obsessed with tone, and I've been, just striving to get the best tone I can since I started playing. And I've done a lot of recording and experimenting with different kinds of recording and so on, so I thought I'd just share a little bit of what I've learned about that. Now, everybody's going to like a slightly different tone, so I should say something about the kind of tone I'm striving for. I like a slightly darker mandolin tone, a sort of that woody, that deep, mellower mandolin tone. It's kind of the tone that you hear in players like Chris Thiele and Sierra Hall, a little bit in David Grisman. And I'm not comparing myself to any of them. The mandolin has a lot of brightness, and I love that brightness. I love that bell-like ringing quality, but that's going to come naturally. So how am I going to get more of that dark tone in there? So that's really what I'm striving for. That might not be what you're looking for. So let me just say a little bit about what I'm not going to talk about in this video. I'm really just talking about tips for getting good tone in recording a modern archtop, and really a modern archtop F-hole mandolin. I could do a separate video on tips for getting good tone in recording a bowlback mandolin. I have a whole different set of techniques that I use for that. If there's interest, I could make that video too, but this is really about the archtop and the F-hole archtop mandolin. I'm not going to talk about mixing or the plugins that I use with my recordings, but I could do a fairly basic video on that too if there's interest. My mixing process is fairly straightforward, but again, I've done a lot of experimentation, tried a lot of different things out with that. Okay, so I am going to talk about a little bit about the room I record in, some techniques, playing techniques that help to get good tone, but mostly I'm going to focus on microphones, mic placement, and what kind of microphones get what I consider to be the best tone in recording mandolin. So I just want to say something about room. Ideally, it would be great to record in a really large room, ideally a large room with high vaulted ceilings with lots of wood and stone. That would be great. But I don't happen to own a cathedral or a castle, so I'm stuck using what I have. So I'm in a small room. I think this room is about 12 by 16 or something like that. It's a pretty small room. And when you record in a small room, there are lots of problems you have to work with. So I've done some treatment to this room. It's just a room in my house, but I've done some treatment to try to control the tone that I'm getting when I record. So I created some corner bass traps using, built a frame and then put in 6 inches of acoustic material, acoustic insulation material. And that helps a lot. And I found that they weren't quite enough, so I also bought some good quality foam corner bass traps, pretty thick, dense foam. There's good quality acoustic foam and not such good quality acoustic foam, and I will put a link in the description below to the company that I bought this good quality acoustic foam from, in case you're interested in that. You might wonder, well, why bass traps? Why do we need corner bass traps? There's lots of good videos out there on treatment and acoustics in a room, but I'll just say briefly, you might think a mandolin is a trebly instrument. Why do you need to worry about the bass? Well, actually, I think a lot of the beauty of the mandolin's tone is in the undertones, the lower frequencies that it puts out. A lot of that sort of woodiness, deepness, the darkness to the tone. I think that's what makes the tone beautiful. But you know, as in any small space, those sound waves can build up and can just cause an acoustic mess. So you need to control that. So I built those corner bass traps. I also built some first reflection panels. That's the first points of reflection between the sound coming out of the instrument and the microphones, so on either wall and ceiling. I used 4 inches of acoustic insulation in some frames that I built for those first reflection points. And then I found that there were also some treble-y frequencies that I needed to do a better job of controlling. I was getting a little bit of ringy pinginess, and so I put up some egg crate acoustic foam that I got from the same company. I put up some towels, actually. Towels are really good at absorbing high frequencies. And I've gotten to the point where I'm pretty satisfied with the tonal quality of the room I'm recording in. Again, the ideal would be a huge open space with high vaulted ceilings, stone and wood. But if you don't have that, you know, some treatment to control the frequencies that you're recording. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about some technique of playing and how to get good tone with technique. There's lots of good videos on that out there, but I'll just go through a few basic elements of technique for playing. I do have a video about picks, testing out different kinds of picks and what I consider the best picks for mandolin, and I will put a link to that in the video. I'll just mention a few elements of technique that I think are important and basic. One is the pick grip. I hope you can see this. You know, I find that I get a nice tone if I don't have too much of the pick sticking out beyond my thumb and forefinger. Gives me a sort of a smoother, mellower tone. I like that. You know, there's a sweet spot to play on the mandolin. I think it's usually, for an archtop, it's usually right about at the end of the fretboard. So right about here, rather than playing down here. On an archtop, you want to strike the strings at a little bit of an angle, rather than the pick flat on, but the pick should be angled a little bit. And then the one technique I just do want to say a little bit more about is that, because I don't remember running into a lot about this, is the idea of the follow-through of the stroke, the follow-through of the pick stroke. It's sort of like, you know, hitting a baseball or hitting a golf ball. They tell you to swing through the ball, not to try to hit the ball itself, but to swing through it. I think it's something the same idea of your pick stroke on the mandolin strings. And for me, that makes a big difference. If I think about a nice, even follow-through in my pick stroke, it creates a better tone. It also helps, you know, keep a more even rhythm, I find, for myself. And I'll just try to illustrate this a little bit. So I'll play a little run here and try to give you a sense of what it sounds like if I'm just kind of plucking at the strings. And now I'll play that same run with a nice even stroke with a nice follow through and see if you can hear the difference. Now what I really want to get to is microphones and mic placement. So I've experimented with a lot of different kinds of mic placement, and I encourage you to experiment with different kinds of mic placement because you'll get a little bit of a different tone depending on where you place the mic. So let's start by talking about if you're miking the mandolin with a single mic. I like, I found that the placement I like best is to point a mic just about here, so kind of a little bit below, a little bit more inside the bass F hole, kind of the right in the middle of the lower bout corner here. And I like to set the mic about 15 to 20 inches off the instrument. So right in front, pointing right about there. Of course, if you're recording with a live ensemble, you might not have the luxury of placing the mic that far off, so you just have to experiment with what gets you what you want in your situation. I'm going to start with kind of as a baseline with a kind of a really standard instrumental mic. This is a Shure SM57. You know, these are used all the time for live situations, for recording situations. So I'm going to let you listen to this mic, and I'm going to alternate that with this mic. This is Neumann KM 184. This, by the way, is I got a really good used deal on this. Still by far the most expensive piece of equipment I own, other than the mandolin. There's this idea out there that you know, there's no need to spend money on good equipment. That, you know, the most important thing is to be a good player, to work on your technique and so on. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I will say, I'm totally privileged to own this beautiful mandolin. This is a Nugget, 2010. It's an A5 Junior Nugget mandolin. Just a gorgeous tone. When I bought this mandolin, it really changed things for me. I found myself more inspired to try to play up to a higher potential, because there is so much potential in this instrument. I'm far from getting there yet, but I'm just so grateful that I own this, and it inspires me to play every day. And the same thing is true to some extent with this microphone. It's just a really good microphone. This is a small diaphragm condenser microphone. The Shure SM57 is a dynamic microphone. It just brings so much clarity and depth and richness to the tone that it really helps me to kind of push my recording to the next level, too. The other thing I'll say is that this mandolin and this microphone are not very forgiving. You know, the first serious mandolin I owned was a Collings MT. Great mandolin, I loved it. And it was a very forgiving mandolin. It kind of sounded pretty good however I played it. This mandolin really amplifies all my little mistakes, but it also amplifies just, you know, the sheer beauty of when I'm playing well. Same thing with this microphone. It really picks up every little transient, every nuance of tone, so that's not always good, but the result when I get the playing that I want is just beautiful. So I'm going to give you a comparison between what the SM57 sounds like and what the Neumann KM 184 sounds like. Same placement, same recording, same single mic placement at the that spot on the mandolin. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is another piece of equipment. This is a little tube preamp. It's an ART tube MP Project Series preamp. There's lots of stuff you can do with this. I won't talk about all that. But just want to say there are lots of much higher quality tube preamps out there. This one is relatively cheap, and I think it gives you a good bang for your buck. I like what it does for the tone. So I like to pair this with my Neumann KM184 microphone, and I'm just gonna let you hear the comparison between the KM184 without the preamp and with the preamp. The final mic that I want to talk about is a ribbon microphone. This is a Royer R10 microphone. There are cheaper ribbon mics available out there. This is not cheap, but this is the least expensive ribbon mic that Royer makes. I listened to a lot of sound samples, and I decided I really wanted the Royer, so I went ahead and got this R10. Why did I want a ribbon microphone? The Neumann really captures those crisp transients, the full range of all the details of the tone. Ribbon mics tend to capture a slightly darker, mellower sound, and I find that if I'm going to double mic my mandolin, which I always do whenever I'm playing anything solo, or even often in a small ensemble, it's the combination of that small diaphragm condenser mic and the darker, kind of richer, deeper ribbon microphone that really gets me the full tone that I want. So when I am miking with the two mics, again, I've experimented with lots of placement, and you should experiment too, but I move the ribbon mic so that it's in front of the mandolin and hitting that sweet spot again on the arch top. Same distance, 15 to 20 inches off, and then I put the Neumann, again going through the tube, the preamp. I put that kind of off at a 45-degree angle, 15 to 20 inches off the mandolin, pointing kind of at the end of the fretboard here. Just seems to give me a nice combination that I like. So I'm going to now give you an opportunity to compare just the Neumann, the single mic going through the preamp with the Neumann and the Royer ribbon mic combination. Okay, and the last thing is I thought I'd just let you hear that same bit of recording, but with a little bit of mixing done to it. So I put a little bit of compression on it, I've put a little bit of reverb on it, I've put a little bit of, just a little bit of EQ on it, and then just touched up some things with a limiter and so on. As I said, be happy to do a little video on how I mix mandolin if there's interest. Hope this was useful for you, and it's been fun for me to share a little bit of what I've learned in some of my experimentation. Thanks.